Raikan Topaini is for Thai drama lovers only.
Sawadee-ha, hello everyone, and welcome to Axelle's Guide to Thai Dramas. I'm Axelle, and the Thai drama we're talking about today is My Golden Blood. I think you've seen it from the thumbnail, from the title, and from my face right now. I think it's gonna be a very good episode because this show is not very good. And I think, honestly, my negative episodes are a little bit more fun sometimes. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think about that. But, spoiler alert, I didn't really like My Golden Blood. There's a lot of reason for it. We're gonna get through it. Little disclaimer, I finished the show quite a few weeks ago. My mom was traveling in Thailand visiting me, and I couldn't film while she was there. So I'm not like the most fresh on every detail. So I think I'm gonna more talk about like general things. And I'm not sure I can remember like every single detail. So apologies about that. Okay. But, let's get into it. My first impression of the show. So before we get like to the mock trailer of this, show, the announcement of this show coming out at the GMMTV lineup, I believe it was the 2024 lineup. So this show was a long time coming. Before we get to that, I do have to say that I had been a very long-term Joss Whedon fan, and I have been a very big Flug Gawin fan as well. Flug Gawin, it was a little bit more of a slow burn. We're gonna get to it, okay? So let's start with Joss Whedon. Both of actually Joss and Flug Gawin, I became aware of around the same era, which is for me a very iconic era of GMMTV and Thai BL. It was the summer, end of the summer 2019. I truly believe that some of the best BLs to this day, and that's the grandma in me, the boomer in the BL fandom speaking, which is that I truly believe that a lot of the best shows were done before 2020. I feel like a lot of BLs actually have kind of like, the quality of BL has kind of gone down, no shade. Not gone down, but I don't know. I just don't feel it the same in my heart anymore. I don't know. Although it's kind of changing back. I'm kind of like starting to feel more passion for Thai dramas recently, which is very, very pleasant. But anyways, so there was Theory of Love airing, I believe in June. So June to like September. And then you had, Tree Will Be Free airing from like August to November, and then you also had Dark Blue Kiss airing from October to December or to January. And these three shows like back to back were all super iconic. They were like all moments, okay, in my fandom life. This is really when I like became a Thai drama stan. Like they kind of changed my life, no shade. And Tree Will Be Free, so Theory of Love, everyone knows I'm a huge Afghan fan. But, Theory of Love is definitely one of my favorite shows of all time. But then Tree Will Be Free. Tree Will Be Free, definitely, in my opinion, to this day, the best JoJo Tishakorn project by far. I think, maybe I've said it before, but I do think he's kind of fallen off in the recent years. Like, since Only Friends, I don't know what's happening. Like, I think he's like doing more things by hype rather than for actually like making a point or telling an interesting story. And that's kind of sad. So I definitely loved Tree Will Be Free. And the reason why I immediately loved Joss, beside the fact that he's obviously extremely gorgeous. Like, obviously, I feel like Joss is very obviously one of the most gorgeous people on this earth. He looks like a Greek god. And that we don't really have to talk about it. I think like sometimes pointing out that someone who's like extremely conventionally attractive, like is so hot, like over and over again, like we're kind of losing the point. But for me, the reason why I especially attached to Joss, because there's a lot of like very conventionally attractive, actors, in even just in GMMTV. But, I do think Joss is perhaps the most attractive of them all. Classically, conventionally. Sometimes I like my men a little bit more like, something is a little bit fucked up in them, no shade, but anyways. Apart from that, what I really attached to is that he, in Tree Will Be Free, was playing a bisexual character, Neo, and as a bi girly, like any time there is a bisexual character, I'm just gonna eat it up, okay? I'm gonna be obsessed. I'm gonna make it my whole personality, but I especially love that Neo, like, for me, in a way, he falls into like bi stereotypes, but also completely avoids them in the way that he is a sex worker. He is in a polyamorous relationship with Mew and Shin, played by Madla Pasalan and Tetawan. But he's also like, you can tell that he's sincere. He's not manipulative. He's not a player. He doesn't really have all the bad traits associated with biphobic people, by the way. But yeah, so I really, really love Neo. I really love Trilby Free. Once again, these 3 shows back to back to back was so good. And to continue in Joss, and I'll come back to talk about Flug Gawin, I continue to follow him all the years after, even though he didn't do like many very hard-hitting projects, in my opinion. He definitely focused more onto being like a straight male lead, which makes sense because he's extremely tall, again, extremely attractive. He definitely, I think, honestly, if he wasn't at GMMTV, and and I'm gonna say something shady, I'm very sorry, if he was a better actor, especially in his early years, I think he would have gotten a lot more opportunities, and he could have become a Lacorn actor on like Channel 3 or something. But because he stuck with GMMTV, I think at the same time, it developed him to a more international audience, but also kind of like shut him down from a lot of opportunities. And now recently Joss like has been kind of exposed from following a lot of right-wing American media, not just like Donald Trump and people like these, but like very hinge, very extreme, very disgusting. Not that Trump is not hinge or extreme, by the way. I don't think I have to speak politics on here. I am the most leftist you can be. Okay. I am 2 steps from a revolution. Okay. I'm going crazy. Okay. So let me make that clear. Apart from that, he was also following like very fringe people like, that fucking Just Pearly Things girl and things like that. And it was like over hundreds of people. And to be honest, there's been a lot of like back and forth. Some people are like, yeah, but he also followed like leftist creators and leftist people and politicians, and others like, yes, he's the demon. To be honest, I don't think that's the issue at hand. Is that for me, there has been a loss of trust. I think it's been very clear that like Joss, as someone who's like extremely conventionally attractive, is likely, I don't want to diagnose anyone, but likely a straight man, and very like popular, I don't think he has any struggle in his life. And no shade. I don't know him personally, but I think he is in a very big place of privilege. He's famous, he's rich, he doesn't have any fucking issue, no shade. And I think it wouldn't surprise me also being like such a gym bro. Like, I think also a lot of the attraction around Joss is that he's so muscular, right? His body is tea. And so I think that makes it so those gym bros sentiments are very, very usually right wing. That's why I don't trust no gym bro, to be honest. I see on my fucking Tinder, gym bros, left, no thank you, okay? But, my issue wasn't even that, is that he never addressed it. And I know a lot of the times, when Off Jumpo, my favorite actor of all time, you guys know it by this point, like had his own controversy. One of the things that also very much hurt me, even though I knew the controversy wasn't necessarily true and wasn't really an indicator of his character, because he's proven his characters time and time again, it really pissed me off that he never addressed it, because I genuinely think when I saw, like, for example, Puin, one of the biggest actors, he's everywhere right now. I think his career is on the up and up. Rightfully so. I really like him. I really appreciated that he came back. He had made like very ableist comments, like when he was like 16 or something while streaming, and he just apologized for it, and he said he won't do it again, and he has learned from his mistakes. And I feel like that's just the best thing you can do in these types of situations. Even though sometimes, yes, acknowledging the problem maybe makes it grow, I do think that like a heartfelt apology, most of your fans are just gonna accept it. And I feel like if had Joss come out and say, yeah, I just like to follow political, like people across the political spectrum, even though I don't really agree with their views, then I would have believed him. I don't think I would have I don't think I would have assumed like, oh, he's lying to protect his career. So literally he could have even just come and lied to us. But I feel like just responding to us would have been just the basic thing to do. And that's why for me, my opinion on Just Weyer has soured. Now, for Flug Gawin was more of a slow burn. So he was in Dark Blue Kiss that aired in October 2019. I really liked Dark Blue Kiss. At the time, I was more of a Tainu fan and like Pete Cow fan. But honestly, since the show aired, I've only ever rewatched it for the Mork Sun scenes or the Sun Mork scenes. Gawin plays the character of Mork, also a bisexual icon. I love. And he's just fucking iconic. I just love him. The more I rewatched, that show, they were so good. Honestly, I feel like Pod Gawin would have been so good. And in the end, I'm happy they didn't happen because now I get to have Pod Papang, which I fucking love with my whole heart. They better not let me down, girl. But yeah, so Flug Gawin made one soundtrack, very random, for Dark Blue Kiss, where he has his guitar. And fun fact, that soundtrack for many years on Spotify was my most listened to song. Okay, it was on my Spotify Wrapped. It was of all time my most listened to song. I would listen to it all the time. It has been a while since I listened to it, but I fucking love that soundtrack. And obviously, Flug Gawin is the soundtrack king. Okay, he's done so many soundtracks for so many series. Now, Flug Gawin, I think you know where he won my heart. Honestly, for most of his career, he hasn't had that many roles, okay? But obviously, he won my heart in Not Me. Yes, I've mentioned Not Me once again in an episode. I have to do it every episode. You guys know how much Not Me means to me. Again, I literally made my master thesis about Not Me. This is how much I love that show, okay? Anyways, all of that to say that everyone hates his character in Not Me, Dan. I actually love him. I think he's one of the most interesting characters. I think people have lost the plot. And I think it's a little bit due to the writing because, spoiler alert, his character in Not Me does betray the characters. But, to be honest, I feel like Dan is the perfect embodiment of how a lot of like poor people, like Dan, I could like literally talk about Dan all day, but Dan comes from like a poor family that owns a farm in another region of Thailand. And I think he's the perfect embodiment about how when you come from a poor background, you want to fit into the system so bad. And oftentimes like becoming a police officer is like the way for you to achieve that, or at least that's what you think. And once you get to it, you realize all the flaws because Dan accidentally kills someone on the job and that's due to like police malpractice and it's covered up. And that's when he realizes the flaws of the system and also becomes like a anonymous like street artist that does like a lot of political stuff. And so Dan like literally is so fucking relatable and I love him and he's one of my favorite characters of all time, even though everyone hates him. Like literally everyone in the Not Me fandom hates him. In my thesis, the responses on my thesis, like when I asked people like, what didn't you like about Not Me? Everyone fucking mentioned Dan. And honestly, it hurt my feelings a little bit. I feel like you all missed the point. Like I know ACAB, I fucking hate the police as much as you guys do, but like, anyways, all of that to say that when I saw Flug Gawin in Not Me, I think his performance was top tier. I think his character was super interesting, super layered, and I loved flawed characters. So for me personally, I fucking loved him in this. And that's when I became a stan. So for a while, I was a very big, like, Gawin first stan. I love Daniel as a couple. I love both couples in Not Me. I'm also a rarity on that. I feel like Not Me, either you were a Sean White girly or a Daniel. Personally, I love both ships, and I don't know if that's like so crazy to say. I think they're both quite similar. But anyways, we're not talking about Not Me right now. All of that to say that is when I went to like knowing Flug Gawin and liking him enough. And I knew one thing about Flug Gawin that I really appreciate, and I think he's very lucky on that front, is that even though he's never like been super popular, I don't know how many followers he has, but before at least My Golden Blood, he had less than 1 million on Instagram, which makes him like a middle-sized like actor at GMMTV, because most of their big actors, right, have like millions of followers. And so even though he's never been like viral or super popular, like the most popular ever, like Brightwing have been, or Gemini Fort have been. He's always had the goodwill of people, and I talked about it with Poon Mitpakdi in my previous, in one of the previous episodes, where I was like, it's very, very rare that you get such goodwill from people, and I feel like Flug Gawin is kind of, even though he doesn't have as many, like, diehard fans, I feel like everyone kind of likes him, and everyone is kind of rooting for him, and I think that's really, really good for him. So, these are my 2 impressions, and since then I have been following Flug Gawin religiously. I absolutely loved him. He shot up. So basically, for like 6 years, Josh Wayar stayed in my top 10 favorite Thai actors. He was always around like place 5 or 6 on my ranking. Now, obviously, he's not in there because, as I said, he has really frustrated me with this easily avoidable, like, thing that has been happening, where I think like there's a lot of unsaid things, and if they were just said, maybe we could settle this. But my politics are extremely important to me, so I can't really overlook that, to be honest. However, for Flug Gawin, I would say he was not even in my top 10. I would liked him in passing, but from Not Me until now, so it's been almost 5 years. Life goes by so fast. What the fuck? Maybe not 5 years, like 3 or 4 years. He's like my second favorite actor after Of Jongpun. I absolutely adore him. I think he's an amazing actor. His range is really phenomenal, and his voice, to die for. I'm still waiting on that fucking album. What the fuck? GMMTV, give me a Flug Gawin album right the fuck now. So now we get on to the GMMT 2024 lineup, where the show was announced. So there had been rumors that Josh Gawin were gonna be appearing, and I was obviously, like, honestly, I couldn't picture it. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. But I was obviously very excited because these were 2 of my actors in my top 10. So obviously I was gonna like it. And when the trailer dropped, I actually really liked it, although I was like, I don't know if vampires are like, I think I was a lot more excited from the get-go for the pairing in itself rather than the show. And I think it's still the case today, and I still like, even people who kind of liked My Golden Blood, it's just for Josh Gawin. Let's be for real, because girl, that show is not good. So that was my first impression of the show. And then the final, I know that the show was like, they changed the plot a little bit, because they wanted to like give it its best shot. I don't know if that was that good to do, but whatever. Yeah, I think I was really, really hyped for this show. The only thing is, this show has always bothered me from the get-go, that it's called My Golden Blood, because there is a show called Golden Blood with a guy with the golden blood. It's not a vampire show. It's also a BL, like a Thai BL. And it's a show that was like kind of a flop. I think a lot of people like criticized it, didn't like it. Personally, it was one of my like guilty pleasures when it came out, because I really like Gun Napat from Love by Chance. And I don't know, I've always been rooting for him. You know, like when you have like random small fucking actors that you've been rooting for years. For me, it's like Gun Napat, Ngurn Anupat, who now has been in like Love in Translation and Forever You project. And I think that was it. And then there was also the actor called, there's Pic Pimapul. Yeah. Pic Pimapul, who's gonna be in a historical BL. I'm very excited for that. I just learned about it right now, even though it's been announced for like months. Anyways, so all of that to say that, I was quite pissed off because I actually but I actually liked the original Golden Blood show. And I was like, how are you gonna like basically steal their title? Like, and I was sure, you know, a lot of the time the title announced during like the mock trailer is changed. I was like 99% sure they were gonna change the title, but nope, they stuck with it, and it kind of bothers me. It's like they're kind of erasing the previous Golden Blood, because obviously My Golden Blood is from a bigger production company with bigger actors, so, and was more popular. So I'm like, it's kind of sad. I don't know. I don't know. Now for the synopsis. So basically the very basic synopsis is that Tong, played by Fluk Gawin, is an orphan and has grown up in an orphanage outside of Bangkok with his best friend Tong Kla and other little boys that have been growing. They're basically the seniors at that orphanage, and when they turn 18, they get to go study in Bangkok for university. So when they go to university, one day Tong so basically Tong has been told that he has like a blood disease, and so he cannot do anything dangerous because if he bleeds, he will die basically, which is like a real disease. But so he's not permitted to work. So basically he's just permitted to go to university. And he sees Tong La being able to go out, make some money so he can spend it on fun stuff. And obviously he is very frustrated because he's lived a very sheltered life and has never been able to really partake in the same activities as Tong La. So one time that Tong La cannot have, like, there's two jobs at the same time, Tong goes secretly instead of Tong La to do that job. And it's at a very, like, fancy building, and that's where he meets Mark, played by Joss Gawin. Tong Kla is played by Neo Trai, also an actor who I really appreciate. And so Joss Whale plays Mark, who is immediately super weird around Tong, and they have very weird gay scenes in the first episode. I think we can agree that the first episode is really, really bad. Like, it's perhaps the worst first episode of almost every show I've ever watched. Like, it's really bad. But in any case, they end up, Tong ends up bleeding, and it makes Mark go crazy because he's a vampire. So we see his fangs, and then he licks the blood off of Tong's finger, and so he has golden blood in his system, and he kidnaps Tong because now the whole party that they were going to, it was vampires, and so they've smelled the golden blood, so they're all chasing after Tong. And so that's basically the synopsis. From then on, Tong and Mark are gonna have the kind of protector and protected relationship, and a lot of, like, action. Honestly, not that much, to be honest. We'll talk about it. So that's the basic synopsis. And they're gonna fall in love. Yeah. I mean, I think that's obvious though. All of that to say, we have then the characters. They are not good. Spoiler alert, they are not good. So first we have Tong. Tong, I think, is an interesting, main character for Fluk Gawin, because he's very, like, cliche. I think the BL main character, like a little bit of a bumbling idiot. Obviously he's the bottom in the relationship. That's always, like, the main character is almost always the bottom, because it's supposed to be like the stand-in for the primarily female or queer audience, who's gonna lust after the top. So in this case, Joss Gawin. Why do I want to say Joss Gawin as their full name? Joss Whale. Oh my god. So, I think, Tong is a lot more from all of the Gawin character. I've basically seen Gawin in all of his roles. It's his most, like, cliche. I feel like Tong is like so many other main characters. I do think, and that's my Gawin bias, I think he was extremely cute playing like that. It was a vision of Gawin I had never really seen before, maybe apart from the little bit, like, the tsundere moments at the beginning, which are a little bit like Mork in Dark Blue Kiss, although I do love Mork in Dark Blue Kiss so much more than I love Tong. But Tong is a little bit basic. There's nothing much, like, there's nothing about Tong that I really, like, particularly loved or held onto or thought it was, like, particularly relatable. Tong is just a good person. He's just loving. He's just practically perfect. But he's also a little bit of a bumbling idiot at times, a little bit clueless, a little bit sheltered because, everyone basically has lied to him since birth. He's not that special. And it pains me to say that because you all know how much I adore Fluk Gawin, okay? But I feel like from all of his characters in BL, if you compare that to Mork in Dark Blue Kiss, Dan in Not Me, or even Pisang in Be My Favorite, even though Pisang is also a little bit bland, but I fucking love Be My Favorite, so I can't... Listen, I love BMI. It's an underrated show. It's so good. Anyways, all of that to say that all these three characters are so much more interesting. And even if they fall sometimes a little bit in cliches, like in Be My Favorite or Dark Blue Kiss, I feel like there was something to set them apart still. But here I feel, I don't know. I was like, this could have been like any fucking main character in a BL. Almost all of them. They all act the same. They all have kind of the same bland personality. And I'm kind of over it. I'm sorry. Why would you do that to my Flug Gawin? Why? Then we have Mark. Mark is even more bland. If you think Tong is bland, imagine the blandest piece of fucking bland fucking breast chicken ever. That's fucking Mark, okay? So Mark is obviously like, in a way it makes sense because he's a vampire. Vampires are not supposed to have emotions. Basically, one of the only things that I kind of liked is that the golden blood gives Mark a little bit more humanity. And that I actually kind of vibed with, in the sense that before, like, vampires couldn't smell, they couldn't taste, so they don't sleep, they don't eat, they don't do anything. But then slowly, after Mark has ingested like Tong's blood, you can see he starts smelling, he starts tasting, he starts sleeping, he starts getting sick. So I kind of like that aspect. It's perhaps the strongest aspect, like, writing wise, in that whole fucking show, to be honest. Although maybe it wasn't that explored, maybe it could have been explored a little bit more. But in any case, Mark is just there. He's hot. He's obsessed with Tong. He's always shirtless. Tell me something new. They always put the fucking beefy fucking top characters shirtless. I'm like, I'm kind of over it. No shade. Like, I don't know if I've become a hater, but I'm kind of like, and we'll talk about how much Joss Whedon is sexualized in this show, because girl, I didn't like that at all. But in any case, basically Mark is hot. And that's it. That's kind of his character. And kind of boring. And I kind of didn't like it. But anyways, I didn't care for it. I was like, okay, yet another like perfect and boring BL love interest. I always talk about those. And why is it always the fucking case? Like, give me something new. Then we have Tongkla. Tongkla, again, is Tong's best friend, played by Neo Tri. Tongkla and Tong's relationship for me is one of the weakest points in that show, because this show is flawed almost on every level. Like, if you think about it, there's not much redeeming in that show, apart from like the couple having really good chemistry. But I mean, for me, again, as I've said times and time again, it's not enough. However, honestly, it could have been just as shitty, okay, just as not good. But if they had put some effort in making us care for Tong and Tongkla's relationship, which would have been so easy. Because these bitches are fucking orphans. They've grown up together. They're best friends, but also brothers. Okay. One of them is being threatened, has this whole like condition, and the other has always like been supporting him. There's so much interesting dynamic to explore there about how much their bond and their friendship is so strong. But I think they didn't want to build that because they didn't want it to compete with the Mark Tong couple. But I think it's so fucking dumb. Honestly, to be honest, I love it. I love it. BL, GL, straight shows, not even Thai dramas, when they develop the friendships of their characters very strongly, because I don't want a character, no matter how much I love their pairing and their romantic couple, I want also them to have a really beautiful life. And to have a beautiful life, you cannot just have one partner that you're super in love with and super close to. You need to have fucking friends. And I feel like, honestly, when, for example, Not Me, like, you have the group of friends, and then you have Shaun White and Dan Yoke on their own, even though at the end, like, Yoke taking Dan back is like kind of a betrayal to Shaun, but whatever. All of that to say that because they have a beautiful friendship, it makes us like the couple more, because the couple is more than friendship. It's something different. So it gives us more like a full picture. That's my opinion. So I feel like they really failed us on it, because, spoiler alert, Tongkla ends up dying in the end. And I kind of clocked it from the beginning, because I was like, they're not developing this guy enough. I'm like, I believe they're gonna kill him off. Because the thing with Neo Tri is obviously in so many GMMTV shows, right? And I think Neo Tri is someone with a lot of personality. She's known as one of the most chaotic and funny actors at GMMTV, especially behind the scenes in like variety shows and stuff. And I was like, why did you even cast Neo here? I feel like casting Neo was kind of random. I don't think he has like much chemistry friendship wise with Flugawin, no shade to them. And I don't know, like, I feel like there's not much going on with this friendship. Tonkla has basically no personality. There's just one time where he does say to Tong that he's always felt like he was on the back seat because Tong has always necessitated so much, like, attention, which was interesting, but this is like a 1 minute scene in the whole show. It's never, and then he fucking dies like 2 episodes later or something, or 1 episode later. So it's just, for me it was very frustrating because Tonkla didn't add anything to me. Then there's the 2 other played by AJ Shayapol. I love AJ Shayapol, been a stan of him for so long as well. And, I'm sorry, I don't know the other actress. I know she's in the Feliz girl group, I believe. But, these, I'm not even talking about them. They're so, they serve no fucking purpose. They're here in 5 scenes. They literally, why are they even here? Like, they should have casted nobodies. Why did they bother GMMTV artists with these fucking roles? Anyways, and the last one, of course, it's Nakan, played by my baby, my 3rd favorite actor, Montana Chai. Now, Montana Chai, if you have not watched Midnight Motel, you will see what a true, like the true capabilities of Montanuchai as a villain are, and you will be gagged. Okay, because let me tell you, I watched Midnight Motel for Of Jumpon, my number 1 actor, Montanuchai, my number 3 actors, and Jeanne Plochampu, who's also one of my favorite actresses. And there's also Louis Tanawin, who's one of my underrated faves. So basically the cast is perfect. That's what I want to say. Midnight Motel is definitely one of the best GMMTV shows. Didn't get any attention. Obviously, it's a straight show. No one cares about those. But in this, the performance that stands out, even though Off is amazing, Jan is amazing, okay, it's Montanuchai. As a villain, he ate so bad. I was so gagged, I couldn't breathe, okay? So I know Montanuchai is not only an excellent actor, okay, that I've been following for like 7 years, but he's also really good in villain role. But here, what the fuck was that? Okay, Nakan could have been a really great character, perhaps the saving grace of that fucking bland ass show. Okay, but so Nakan, when he's introduced to us, he's like clearly the villain. From episode 1, you're like, oh, that bitch is a villain. Okay, and he's like such a stereotype of a villain. He starts laughing like, like the cruel laugh, the evil laugh. I'm like, bitch, what are we doing? Like, hello? We're not watching a Disney movie for 5 years old. Hello? This has adult scenes. This is for adults. Why are we watching something so fucking dumb? And immediately I was like, okay, so Nakan has absolutely no credibility. And Loki, I felt like Mon's acting in these scenes felt false. I was like, what is going on? So Nakan, those end up killing Tonkla. So he's kind of a villain. So, but, in the end, we learn that he's not the villain of the show, but Tara, who's like, Mark's like adopted mother and kind of has like helped him with everything and made him her second, like her left-hand man, is the villain, the true villain. And she's the one who's been killing all the people with golden blood and trying to harvest their blood for herself. And Nakan just says, my mission this whole time has been to kick Tara out, because Tara basically is the queen of the vampires. Like, she has been in a leader position with all the vampires around the world forever. And Nakan is not happy about that. I'm like, okay. But then nothing makes fucking sense. Why are you doing all this shit? So it's just like that plot twist could have been interesting, but because Nakan, and then the acting gets a little bit better on Nakan's part, but because he's been built as like a fucking asshole villain from the get-go, that's also, again, not acting very well because it's so over the top and there's no build-up for it and no like emotional build-up either for him to laugh like so cruelly that you're like, what the fuck's happening? It's just this character is very bad. Like, I'm sorry. It could have been the saving grace, but, and again, the fact that I have to say that Loki, one of my favorite actors of all time, one of my hobbies, okay, kind of acted badly, and I know for a fact that he can act like a villain, and I know for a fact that this was the fault of the director and the writing, that is so bad that they couldn't even pull that out of Montanuchai. You know what I mean? They couldn't even pull a good performance out of Montanuchai. And what the fuck is that? Like, hello? So anyways, I'm pissed off. And Tara, perhaps the most interesting character. I actually really love this actress. If you've watched any type of Thai drama, you know she plays the mom in basically all of them. I think that plot twist was perhaps one of the most like entertaining aspects of the show. And Tara is an interesting character, but again, so little developed. Even though this is like, they're definitely a more plot-focused show rather than character-focused show. If you don't know, I'm more of a character-focused girly, meaning that I would rather the characters have a very satisfying growth and development, even if the actual plot and the story is not as good. If for me the characters are interesting enough and have my heart and make me care for them, it's more important than the story. But most people are usually more story focused in the sense that the characters don't have to be developed. They can just be there to fulfill the story, to fulfill the plot, and these people will be happy. So maybe ask yourself what kind of people you are. But for me, yeah, that also is what made this show feel so unsatisfying. Because for me, like, I was like, I don't care about any of these characters. Like, what the fuck's happening, you know? Now the cast and acting. So as I said, like, this cast was really good. All 4 main actors in this are actors that I love. Or in the case of Just We Are, loved. And it's also been something very frustrating for me is that like my Golden Block took so long to arrive that by that time I wasn't even a fan of Just We Are anymore. And it really sucks because I was so ready to be a Joss Gawin girly and be so into them and be like obsessed with them and go to like the first screening of my Golden Blood and the last screening, the final ep of my Golden Blood, and go to all the fan meets and all the events. And I'm very happy though that with this show coming out, I've seen Gawin especially like get a lot more like brand deals, and he's been posting more on Instagram, and that's like something that I really appreciate. But yeah, it fucking sucks. Like, I'm really actually unhappy about it, because it kind of ruined this show for me in advance, because I used to be obsessed with this ship. Like, for me, this pairing, I was like, oh my god, that's like the perfect pairing. And how did they put like 2 of my top 10 actors together? That's crazy. But now I can't even enjoy it. As for the acting, I think Gawin did amazing as always. Although again, Tong is a little bit like stereotypical. I think he did really great. He was very charming in this. And even though I criticized Tong for being very blonde, he's still very lovable because Gawin did an amazing job with him. Nakan, again, had its up and downs. Tongkla, played by Neo Tri, it's okay. I think anyone could have played this role. And I think that's bad. Like, for me, a good role is when you can't imagine anyone else in that role. And here, like, I could. Like, it could have been any fucking actor at GMMTV. It would have been the same. You know what I mean? So I kind of hated that. As for Joss, I think he didn't do so bad. But I think it's hard because Joss's problem with acting has always been, like, emoting. Like putting out emotions. That's why I was still a fan of him at that time, but I was really proud of him when I saw him have like a full like crying scene in Loneliness Society, because if you watch him in any roles, be it Trill Be Free, which was his first like lead role, you can see in Trill Be Free that he cannot emote as well, especially like even Tetawan is, I would consider Tetawan as like a good actor, but not an amazing actor. And even Tetawan has more emotions and is a lot more fluid than him. But especially those 2 next to Madla Pasalan, who's like a top tier actress, especially when it comes to crying scenes, they both look like quite stiff, especially Just Weyar, because it was his first role. But over the like past 6-7 years, his acting hasn't evolved a lot until I saw him in Loneliness Society, and I was like, oh, I think he's getting better, but he's still not at the level, for example, of Fluk Gawin, who's obviously a much stronger actor. And I think it's kind of sad because it didn't help that Joss's character in this show is supposed to be a little bit cold, especially at the beginning when he's just a vampire. He's not supposed to feel emotion. And then slowly he obviously like starts to feel emotion thanks to the golden blood. And so in a way it makes sense, but in a way it doesn't. So I don't know. I feel like the acting here was okay, but there was not like, but the chemistry was really good. We're going to talk about it. The acting, okay. It gets a passing grade. Let's say that. Now for the writing. I feel like I've already been talking for too long, but in the writing, there's nothing that really worked, in my opinion. I think the full first episode is a flop, like is a total flop. Honestly, I almost dropped the show because the CGI is terrible. The way the pacing of the first episode is almost too quick, too jarring. It drops you in an action, and sometimes it works. Like, again, not to compare with Not Me once again, but in Not Me, it works so much because the first half of the first episode kind of shows us who White as a character is. Then you have part 3 when he decides to take his twin brother's identity. And then in part 4, he's dropped into the action of Black's gang going to burn the villain's house in the show. And that works because we have the 2 first parts of the episode showing us who White is, why this is drastic, and kind of cluing us in as to this story, why they would go to burn this particular guy's house, because this guy was already introduced. So it all checks out, and honestly, I believe the Not Me's first episode is a masterpiece. It's so good! And the people who said that Not Me's first episode was not good and was boring, you all are fucking filthy liar, and I will spit on you, bitch, because what the fuck? Anyways. Let me calm down. All of that to say that this was a complete opposite. I feel like we're dropped into, for me, the thing that I really liked in episode 1 is when we see them in the orphanage. Honestly, I wish we had like more scenes in the orphanage, more flashbacks, more things. Like it had been a lot more tied into the main story because I actually really loved. I think, first of all, it's quite rare to have an orphan character. Usually they have parents. So it's interesting. Especially I would have loved to have like the relationship with the younger people at the orphanage, the younger boys, be explored. I think it could have really been sweet to see Tong and Tongkla mentor these young boys. I think it would have been like really, again, if even the show is not so good, the writing is not so good, but when scenes can pull emotion out of the viewers, they're gonna forgive the mistakes a lot more. But here, I didn't have any emotion pulled from me. Not even when Tongkla fucking died. I should have cried. But they flopped so bad that it didn't work, okay? So the first episode is like so jarring. The CGI is so bad. When they fall off the building, it was the fakest shit I've ever seen. It looked like CGI from the shows I used to watch. No, even I think the shows I used to watch when I was like 10 years old had better CGI than this. Like the CGI was really bad. And I think we all know that like Thai dramas are not really, really good at CGI, especially GMMTV dramas. I don't think they have the right budget for it. And so don't do it. That's my tip, girlie. If you can't do it, don't do it. I just said that. Okay, whatever. So in the writing, there's, as I said, weak characters. The storyline is pretty weak. And also I felt like it has the flaw of most like BL shows these days, especially the GMMTV BL shows, is that it felt like a lot of the scenes were just fan service. So I think in terms of like being cost efficient, it really is for GMMTV. And this is something that I'm realizing. I'm like, okay, GMMTV does make a lot of money off of their concerts, their merch, their events, their ships, etc. But at the same time, they produce like 20 plus series per year. That's still a lot of fucking money. And I think the way they try to reduce the cost for this series is to have a lot of scenes inside. So I was complaining about it, the fact in Us that there's like 5 or 6 scenes of, Pam and Doc Rack in bed and like to show us their chemistry. And it's kind of like a lot of fan service scenes where we're like, oh my God, they're so cute. Okay. But because they're all taking place in the same exact location in Doc Rock's bed, it felt a little bit repetitive and kind of melted all together. But I realized this saves them a lot of money because they can film these scenes back to back to back in the same location, which is just like you have to just rent a fucking room. It's not gonna be super expensive. But if they had to film these 5 or 6 scenes in different locations, then it would have costed them a lot more. And now it kind of has made me realize why a lot of these recent GMMTV BLs, because like in the GMMTV 2025 lineup, GMMTV gave almost all of their biggest ship show, right? That's a lot of fucking shows. So to kind of compensate for that, I think they are doing this kind of a lot of fan service scenes that can be filmed in the same types of locations, so it costs them less. And I think My Golden Blood also, most of the scenes happen in Mark's like condo, and so a lot of the scenes kind of feel repetitive. It's just like building the chemistry, which is good. Again, I genuinely think the chemistry of this pairing is the only thing saving this show, but it's really frustrating because I'm like, okay, this plot could be a lot more dense and a lot more developed on so many levels. Like the characters could be more developed, the plot could be more developed, like everything basically could be better written with more depth, but they didn't do that, and instead they just show us cute scenes over and over again. Like it feels a little bit pointless. And especially you're like, why is this even taking place at university? Like it just, nothing really makes sense. I also think like the aesthetic of the show is a little bit all over the place, because the university aesthetic is like very plain, and then you have the vampire aesthetic where they try to do a lot of like black and white, even especially at the end when Tong is going to be sacrificed by Tara. They want to like, it looks like a cult almost, right? It looks like a cult sacrifice, and it's on purpose obviously. But I was like, okay, I feel like there's two very drastic aesthetic, but in a way, it could have worked if they were so drastic that you could tell, like, there's the real life and then there's the vampire life, and that's why they're so drastic. Maybe, like, real life has more of a yellow tone and the vampire life has more of a blue tone. So everything is color graded accordingly. But that's not the case. And I felt like the aesthetic of the show, like there's nothing in the show visually that I really remember that really marked me. I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping the gun to the cinematography, but that's just, for me, that's also part of the writing where there's just nothing jumping at me, even in terms of writing. I don't even want to go down to everything that's wrong with the writing, because everything is wrong with the writing. Quite literally, everything is wrong except from the fan service scenes, which are cute. But, I think something that did make it, I'm gonna fit it now because I don't know when to fit it. I did feel very, very uncomfortable with how sexualized Joss Whedon is in this show. A lot more than even, like, I know, for example, Force Jirachapong, from Force Book is very, very sexualized in terms of his abs. Like, he became super, like, when he came into, when he came into the BL scene, he never showed his body. Then he got this crazy 6-pack and he's been showing it in every show on Instagram. Like, it's kind of become his thing that he's very, very buff. Just like Joss Whedon or Neo Try also are known for being extremely buff. But, for me, like, Joss Whedon, it was particularly fetishizing. I felt like not only were they showing us his like muscle, his chest muscles, which we have already seen. I feel like these are kind of, we've seen it before, at the very least on Joss's Instagram and stuff. But what really bothered me is that he's in these little like boxers or like swimming trunks, and they're the smallest little thing. You can see the outline of his pee-pee. Okay, you can see the outline, you can see his whole fucking ass, and I'm like, at some point, like, I know for a fact that even like in a Thai drama, you wouldn't get like a female character, especially at GMMTV, in a very sexy bikini. Okay, that shows less of her body. But here we can see the outline of his entire fucking anatomy, and I felt extremely uncomfortable. And I'm not a prude by any means, but I felt like, oh, so this is the value that Joss adds to you. He is kind of the ultimate male fantasy. And for me, it made me extremely uncomfortable, because I would have been uncomfortable if a woman was sexualized in this way. And I think because Thailand is a little bit more conservative for women, but BL is more like gay, queer men, like queer characters at the very least. They're like, yeah, let's show everything basically. And it's very normalized. It's very accepted that like, yeah, show us your abs, show us, like, they're very commodified. And I could talk about it all day, to be honest. I feel like BL actors specifically are extremely sexualized, extremely commodified, and it makes me extremely uncomfortable, and it should not be normalized. But here it was really at a length that I had never seen before, because this doesn't just happen once, it doesn't happen twice, this happens like many, many times during the show. And it really bothered me. Also, I do feel like they made Flugawin lose some weight to look smaller next to Just Wayar, because before, like, if you look at Flugawin, especially in Not Me, his arms are super huge. He's definitely one of the biggest guys in Not Me. And yet, like, now I feel like they made him lose weight so he could look tinier to kind of fit more the top-bottom view of like actors, where you need a smaller one to be the bottom, you know, which pisses me off. Again, I think it's known that I hate the top bottom discourse, especially in BL. I think it's exhausting. I think, like, make them all versed. I'm bored. I need some new shit. I'm fucking bored of it. But, yeah, the writing in total, the only thing a little bit exciting was the last episode, I think, when they're like trying to stop Tara, and even that wasn't like written the best or executed the best, but I think it was a little bit more interesting than the rest of the show. So it's not that like everything is super wrong. I just feel like a lot of these things could have been improved, but I think it's also quite hard, because I think GMMTV is such a factory these days. Like, they're producing so many shows. It is really hard to get like shows that are consistent true and true, and that like you can tell there's like not just care in one or two areas of the show, but in all of them. And unfortunately, I feel like the writing is oftentimes the first thing to suffer, even though, as you guys know, personally, I think the writing is the foundation of it all. It's definitely the most important step, because for me, it's like, you can't build a house without having some foundations to hold the house up. And I feel like the writing is the foundation of a show. And then, yes, the acting, the costume design, the cinematography, the pacing, all of that can then be added to improve the show and make it even fucking better. You know what I mean? So for me, yes, that was a big issue with the writing, where I just felt like everything went so fast when it mattered. Like, all the plot things were super, super fast. And also a lot of things. Also, I think there is a part of it where I don't like action. I think action has been, I'm a very girly girl. I feel like I like a lot of, everything I like is very like stereotypically associated with women. And I never really liked anything associated with men. It wasn't like by choice. Maybe it was subconscious. So for me, I have never really cared for action movies, action scenes. I think they're like not interesting at all. They're actually boring. Like, to be honest, my eyes glaze over when I watch a movie and there's a lot of action scenes. If there's one or two, yes, I'll pay attention, especially if it's like well done and it's like at a stressful point and you're actually anxious for the characters, so then you're gonna pay attention. But most of the time, I really don't like action scenes, and I feel like here a lot of the action scenes like didn't hit it with me. I don't know if it's because I don't like action scenes even to begin with, or if because the show failed. I would be surprised if the show like succeeded in the action scenes when it failed everywhere else. But you guys tell me what you thought of the action scenes, because a lot of the time I was kind of like glazing over, like kind of over it, and kind of I fast forwarded a lot of the fight scenes. That's why, like, when Tonkla died, I didn't even watch how he died. I just saw him die because I was like fast forwarding, because I was over it. I don't really care for that as well. So there's also that, and I am definitely biased against that. So do take that into mind. Now for the cinematography, as I said, like, there are interesting elements. Like, for example, in the first episodes, a lot of people didn't get it. I didn't get it either. But at some point, like, when Tong is visiting kind of like, Mark's apartment, he opens up a jar of butterflies, and the butterflies actually start flying, around the room. And even though it's very random and kind of never makes an appearance again, I don't know what this was meant to do, because we never see like inanimate object start flying or doing stuff the rest of the show. So it was a little bit weird. But in any case, like the aesthetic there was really fun, and it was really in line with, oh shit, you have this human being pulled into like a dark world, a supernatural world, where things he didn't think possible actually are. So I think there was a potential for the aesthetic to be a lot better than this. Here I feel like it was very bland. Nothing really stood up to me. Not good. The cinematography is not good. Like very, very basic and very like, I feel like, at the contrary, the fact that they went for a supernatural show should have given them so much inspiration and like color palettes to go with the theme of the show, and they didn't, and that's kind of infuriating to me. As a creative, I'm like, just in my mind right now, I'm visualizing so many good like sets and like costume designs and things like that could have worked so well, and they didn't do it. So yeah. As for the pace, for me, the pace is really bad. I'm gonna be honest. As I said, like for me, there's some episodes that actually do have like some development about Nakan, about Tara, about the like vampire plot. And then there's like a lot of episodes where I felt like nothing really happened except from Mark and Tong like getting closer, falling in love, having a lot of like these fan service scenes that I talked about. And although these episodes are nice, I think they could have blended the two aspects of the show. So the love story, which is mostly done like one-on-one behind private walls between Mark and Tong, which again, I do think it was for cost efficiency, because then this can be filmed in like the same 3 locations all the time. And then the actual like main storyline that kind of like started the whole plot with Tara, with Nakan, with the Golden Blood, and with the vampires. And I think they should have tried to mix and match those a little bit more. And it's only towards the end that they start meshing. But for me, it didn't work so well, because then there's a pace issue where I didn't really care for the vampire scenes, because they took me out of the only enjoyable element of this show, which is the relationship between Mark and Tong, which they do have a lot of chemistry. They are both incredibly good looking. Obviously, you're gonna root for this pairing, even though the characters are very bland, as I said. But, so when we would talk about vampires, I would be taking out of my only part, like an only enjoyable part of the show. And then when we talked about Mark and Tong, I would be like, okay, that's fun, but this is kind of outside of the main plot. Like, when are we getting back to the fact that Tong kind of has to die, and there's a lot of threats to this relationship. So it was a little bit complicated for that, and I think the pace was also a failure. I'm sorry. Now for the ships and chemistry. So there's only one ship. I mean, I know that the friends, the basketball friends, the girl and AJ Shayapol are dating together, but I don't, again, they barely mattered. I don't know why they were here even, but whatever. So the main ship is obviously Mark Tong. I think Mark Tong is a very solid ship due to Joss Gawin's incredible chemistry. I think the chemistry is extremely good. I think they've kind of dispelled all of my doubts about this ship. I was like, are they really like, because obviously like when they're together, they give that the straight gym bro vibes. Maybe Flug Gawin a little less, because he's more of like a quiet guy, introvert guy, but I don't know, like, I feel like it's, they really work, and it pisses me off even more, because now I'm like, I could have been your biggest stan, Joss Gawin, but Joss had to ruin it, and that pisses me off so bad, okay? So it really frustrates me to no end, but I think you guys can already see that on my face. So I do think the chemistry was definitely the only good thing about this show. Yeah, there's nothing much to say about it. It's really good. It is really good. They look great together. They act great together. The chemistry is great. Like, yeah, basically, that's all I gotta say. Then we have the music. I did not pay attention to the music. I really like the soundtrack, the first soundtrack that they released by Flug Gawin. Closer, his voice in that is so good. And it proved again that if given the right resources, Flug Gawin could be another Jeff Satur. Like, he could be another, or Jeff Satur? You guys tell me. He could be another non-Panon. He could be another Patrick Ananda. Like, let's go. Give Gawin a singing career. Let's go. Like, hello. Like, it pisses me off so bad. But apart from that, like, all the original soundtracks, I didn't, like, even watch the music videos. Because again, I'm a little bit mad at Joss at the moment. I don't know if you noticed. But, I really enjoyed I think it's 3 songs. Apart from that, I didn't notice the music as always. So I don't really care. Now, costume design, basic as fuck, boring as fuck. Didn't notice anything about it. Not good. It's not good. They could have done so much better. Again, the fact that it's a vampire show. Have you seen Dracula's Fit? You could have modernized the vibe, like the classic vampire vibe, and made it fucking cunty as fuck. Okay? This pisses me off so bad. Anyway, let's move on. They missed the mark on everything in the show. You can tell they put this show with 3 strings and the idea that Joss Gawin are hot together and that's it. And you're like, why even do a vampire show then? Like, what was the fucking point? Like, what? Anyway, the rewatchability, I will not be rewatching this. I will not be rewatching this, okay? Literally, I will not be rewatching this. Again, I didn't like really the characters. I'm not the biggest Joss Gawin fan, even though they're very cute. Thank you, Joss, for that. And I don't know, there's nothing really, like, pleasant about that show. Like, when I was done, I was like, yes, thank God I'm done with that show. And I'm not even, like, religious, but I said, thank God. I was like, thank you, God. I don't believe in you, but right now I do. Okay? Because this was bad, okay? This was bad. This was a bad show. No emotional pull, nothing. Like, it's empty. It's empty as fuck. I don't like it. Now for my rating, I was actually very generous. I was more generous with My Golden Blood than I was with Pluto, for the simple reason that My Golden Blood is just mediocre, and it's kind of fucking obvious from episode 1 again, that it's just a fucking mediocre show. It's just there to be mediocre. But I feel like Pluto, not only I think thought it was more self-intelligence and self-important than it actually was. It's a very bad show. But also I think the fans hyped it up a lot more than My Golden Blood. I think low-key everyone who watched My Golden Blood knows it's trash. And I appreciate the honesty. We have to be honest with ourselves. Okay? But I feel like Pluto has been hyped as if it's like the most revolutionary show of all time, when it is not. So this is why I was maybe a little bit more harsh with Pluto. Only a little bit more, because I gave this a 7. It's a 7.8 on my drama list. And yeah, you guys know that I never agree with the My Drama List rating, so let's just move on. Now how I would fix it. So the way I would fix this is I would have taken a lot more time to rewrite the whole show. I think, again, the story of the show, although basic, like, it's kind of giving Twilight, it's kind of giving some other, like, supernatural shows, right? It's kind of fucking basic. They could have workshopped it to have the writing, maybe give Tong a little bit more quirk so he stands out. Mark, give him something more so it can be more interesting. Nakan, make him more sense. Don't make him have the fucking evil laugh 2 episodes in, which ruins his entire charisma. Tongkla, definitely develop him more. Develop the relationship between Tong and Tongkla. So when Tongkla dies, we're all crying. When Tongkla died in the actual show, I was like, oh, okay, I don't give a fuck. Bye. I mean, I was appreciating Fluke Gawin's acting in that scene, but that's kind of it, because he's crying for his friend. But I'm like, okay, I should be crying right now, but I'm not, because this show is badly written and badly executed. So all of this already put the characters more, maybe develop even more the relationship between Mark and Tara. So the betrayal that Tara is the villain and was the villain all along hurts more. Twist the knife in our chest. Thing which shows we need to feel. And this show did not make me feel anything. Apart from maybe, like, oh my god, these two are hot, they're very cute when they kiss. It's basic. I can feel that about any fucking couple. No shade. What makes this show special? Give me more. Give me emotion. Give me writing. Oh, I feel like a fucking life coach, but for like GMMTV shows. So I would fix it that way. And then I definitely develop more the relationships and kind of try to like zigzag between the two topics. So one, the love story, two, the vampire drama, golden blood, blah, blah, together a lot more, weave them more together. And also I would redo the entire first episode, not have them jump from that building because that CGI was so bad. And yeah, that's pretty much all I would do. Yeah, I would redo everything. But I think the foundations of the show had some potential, but they took the wrong decision at every turn and made this show one of the most forgettable and bland shows I've seen in a while. And that's saying something. No shame. Lastly, who would like this show? If you like masculine men with big abs, very tall, you can see the contour of their pee-pee when they're wearing a Speedo. You want them to make out with a very handsome and cute guy, also very tall. Probably you will like the show to some extent. Even if you don't like this show, you will like this pairing. Because that was kind of my experience. Although I didn't like the Speedo thing, I felt extremely fetishizing and like sexualizing. It was uncomfortable. But apart from that, I think this show is like trash. And it's okay. It's okay to have trash once in a while. Of course, I was a little bit more harsh. This is a review, okay? I can't praise trash. I have to bring it up. And you guys know that I have very high expectations. I'm very harsh when I review a show. And that's how it is. I'm sorry. I will not apologize for the way that I am, okay? But apart from that, like, I don't think it's a terrible show. I think it can be a good time, but it could have been a way better time if they actually put some care into it. And that's kind of sad that they didn't, you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how Joss Gawain are in Only Friends Dream On. Because now they've recast the one pairing that I didn't like in Only Friends Dream On. You know, the one. And they've put my baby's Uboom in that. So obviously now I even more, that's what sucks, because when they announced Only Friends Dream On, I was still on my Joss Gawain train. I didn't dislike Joss yet. So I was like, oh shit, Joss Gawain are gonna force me to watch Only Friends Dream On. And then Joss did what it did. And I was like, oh, then at least I won't have to watch Only Friends Dream On. I probably would have still watched it because of Gawain, because I love Gawain so fucking much. But whatever. And now they fucking added Uboom. So now I have to watch it. I have 3 actors I really like in that show. Plus Earth Mix, who I like. I'm not like a huge fan, but I do like them. So anyways, I will have to watch Only Friends Dream On, which I haven't made an episode on the channel about how much I hate Only Friends. Because that would mean I have to rewatch it. And I can't do this. I'm sorry. So probably you'll get the Only Friends Dream On. Oh, maybe I'll do a double whammy, you know what I mean? Like on Saturday, you get Only Friends, the first season review. Oh, that means I need to rewatch it. And then on the Sunday, you get Only Friends Dream On. I think that would it. You guys tell me, this is still obviously very far away. I know they just started filming, but yes, I have lost the plot right now. All of that to say that this was not a really good show. This is kind of trash, but it's still kind of enjoyable. The couple is cute. I love Flu Gawain. I love Montanuchai. You know what I mean? Like, you can still watch it. It's not the most horrible show, but definitely kind of a flop. Especially like compared to other like shows, GMMTV shows that I've been watching recently, which have been like quite solid. Not so good. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.